Maintaining a lush, thriving garden is a labor of love that requires patience, observation, and, most importantly, a deep understanding of hydration. We've all been there, spending weeks nurturing a delicate seedling or a prized tomato plant, only to watch it wither away due to a simple oversight. It's a heartbreaking experience that often boils down to how we handle the garden hose. While watering might seem like the most basic task in horticulture, it is actually a nuanced science that can make or break your growing season. Common myths and old wives' tales often lead even the most dedicated gardeners down the wrong path, resulting in wasted resources, fungal diseases, or stressed root systems. Today, we are going to break down 5 classic watering mistakes that are likely holding your garden back from its full potential. By mastering these techniques, you won't just be keeping your plants alive. You'll be helping them flourish in ways you never thought possible. We will explore everything from the critical importance of timing and targeted techniques to the strategic use of mulch and professional automation tools. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching this video from? And what time is it right now? Leave a comment below. I can't wait to see your answers. Mistake number 1. Watering at the wrong time. The timing of your irrigation routine is perhaps the most underrated factor in plant health. Many gardeners simply water whenever they find a spare moment in their busy schedules. But your plants operate on a biological clock that dictates how they process moisture. While the absolute best time to water is whenever the plant actually needs it, meaning if you see a plant wilting in the scorching midday sun, you should provide relief immediately. Having a consistent, scientifically backed schedule is the goal. The gold standard for irrigation is early morning, ideally right as the sun begins to crest the horizon. There are several physiological reasons for this. First, morning temperatures are at their lowest, and winds are typically calm, which drastically reduces water loss through evaporation. More importantly, morning watering allows plants to achieve maximum turgidity. Turgor pressure is the force of water against the cell walls that keeps a plant upright and sturdy. When a plant starts its day fully hydrated, it is much better equipped to handle the stresses of rising temperatures and intense UV rays. For shallow-rooted crops like bush beans or certain leafy greens, this morning soak ensures they don't hit a moisture deficit by lunchtime, preventing the stunted growth that occurs when a plant has to shut down its metabolic processes to survive the heat. If your morning schedule is too packed, the next best option is late afternoon or early evening. The logic here is similar. We want to avoid the heat of the day. Watering during the peak of the sun is incredibly inefficient. Much of the moisture evaporates before it even reaches the root zone. Furthermore, in windy conditions, the water can blow away or evaporate off the leaf surface so quickly that it actually causes a cooling effect that can shock sensitive tropical varieties. The last resort is late night watering. While it solves the evaporation problem, it introduces a significant risk: fungal pathogens. When foliage remains wet for 8 to 10 hours overnight without the sun to dry it off, you create a perfect incubator for powdery mildew, blight, and rust. If you must water at night, ensure you are using a targeted method that keeps the leaves bone dry. Mistake number 2. The dangers of overhead watering. Many gardeners treat their plants like they are at a car wash, spraying a high-pressure stream of water directly over the canopy. While this might feel satisfying and quick, it is one of the most detrimental habits you can develop. This method, known as overhead irrigation, is fundamentally flawed for 2 primary reasons: efficiency and pathology. From a physiological standpoint, plants are not designed to drink through their leaves. While they do have microscopic pores called stomata that can absorb a negligible amount of moisture and foliar nutrients, the vast majority of a plant's hydration happens at the root zone. When you spray from above, a significant portion of that water is intercepted by the foliage, where it simply sits and eventually evaporates without ever reaching the soil. It is a wasteful use of a precious resource. To maximize growth, you must deliver water to the base of the plant, where the root system can actually transport it to the rest of the organism. More importantly, watering from above is a leading cause of garden diseases. Soil is a living ecosystem, but it also harbors various fungal pathogens and bacteria. When heavy droplets of water hit bare soil at a high velocity, they create a splashback effect. These droplets carry soil-borne diseases, such as early blight or septoria leaf spot, upward onto the lower leaves of your plants. This is particularly devastating for diva plants like tomatoes, peppers, and roses. Once the foliage is wet and contaminated, the warm, humid microclimate created under the canopy acts as a petri dish, allowing the disease to spread rapidly upward until the entire plant is compromised. While some fall crops, like kale or cabbage, are more acclimated to wet conditions and overhead rain-like environments, summer crops are much more sensitive. To solve this, transition to tools that offer targeted delivery. Using a watering wand allows you to reach deep into the base of the plant, keeping the leaves dry while soaking the soil. Alternatively, installing a soaker hose or a drip irrigation system ensures that water is delivered slowly and directly to the ground, eliminating splashback entirely and keeping your garden's immune system strong. Mistake number 3, the dual threat. Overwatering versus underwatering. Watering is often described as a Goldilocks task. You want it to be just right. However, most gardeners tend to lean toward one extreme or the other, either loving their plants to death with too much water, or underestimating how much moisture is required to reach the root zone. Understanding the balance between these two threats is crucial for maintaining a resilient garden. Underwatering is a common mistake because surface level moisture is often deceptive. You might spray a garden bed for a few minutes until the soil looks dark and wet, assuming you've done a great job. However, if you were to dig just 2 inches down, you might find the soil is bone dry. This is especially true for potting mixes containing peat moss or high carbon organic matter, which can become hydrophobic, water repellent, when they dry out. To combat this, I recommend the water, wait, water method. First, apply a light coat of water to break the surface tension and begin rehydrating the top layer. Move on to another bed for 5 minutes. Then return to give the area a deep, thorough soak. This priming allows the water to actually permeate deep into the subsoil, rather than just running off the surface. On the flip side, overwatering is perhaps even more dangerous because it is often harder to fix. This is a primary concern for container gardeners. When a plant sits in a pot without adequate drainage, the air pockets in the soil, which roots need to breathe, become filled with water. This leads to root rot, a condition where the root system literally begins to decompose. The most confusing part of overwatering is that its symptoms often mimic underwatering. A plant that is drowning will often wilt and develop yellowing leaves because its damaged roots can no longer transport nutrients or oxygen. Before you reach for the hose, perform the finger test. Stick your finger 2 to 3 inches deep into the soil. If it feels cool and damp, your plant is fine. If it feels dry at that depth, it's time to water. Consistency is better than quantity. A deep soak once or twice a week is almost always better than a light sprinkle every day. Mistake number 4, the one-size-fits-all approach. One of the most pervasive myths in gardening is that a garden is a single entity with a single set of requirements. In reality, your garden is a collection of diverse organisms, each with unique physiological needs based on their species, their environment, and, most importantly, their current stage of life. Treating a row of delicate lettuce seedlings the same way you treat a heavy-producing tomato vine is a recipe for inefficiency and plant stress. Let's start with seedlings. When a plant is in its infancy, it possesses a very shallow, fragile root system. It hasn't yet developed the deep tap roots or extensive lateral networks needed to seek out moisture stored in the subsoil. Because the top inch of soil is the first to dry out due to evaporation, seedlings are incredibly vulnerable to even a few hours of drought. They require frequent, light watering delivered with precision. Using a high-flow drip emitter that puts out a concentrated plume of water every 12 inches might miss the seedling's root zone entirely. This is where a soaker hose shines. It provides a consistent curtain of moisture across the entire length of the row, ensuring no tiny root is left parched. As plants transition into the fruiting phase, their biological demands shift dramatically. Consider a tomato plant or a watermelon. These plants are essentially water storage vessels. To produce juicy, heavy fruits, they must move massive amounts of water from the soil into the fruit cells. During this stage, you must modulate your watering upward. A plant that was perfectly happy with a gallon of water a week during its vegetative stage might need 3 times that once it starts setting fruit. If moisture levels fluctuate too wildly during this period, you risk physiological disorders like blossom end rot, caused by inconsistent calcium uptake, or fruit cracking. Conversely, leafy greens like spinach or arugula require a different strategy altogether. They don't need the massive surges of water that fruiting plants do, but they demand absolute consistency. If the soil dries out even once, the plant may go into survival mode, causing the leaves to become unpalatably bitter, or the plant to bolt, flowering prematurely. By moving away from a broadcast watering style and toward a precision-based approach, you ensure that the water you use is actually supporting the specific growth goals of each crop. Mistake number 5. Neglecting the power of mulch. If watering is the act of putting money into a savings account, then mulching is the act of locking the vault. Many gardeners view mulch as a purely aesthetic choice, something to make the beds look finished. But in reality, it is one of the most powerful water management tools at your disposal. Growing plants in bare soil is essentially an invitation for the sun and wind to rob your garden of its most precious resource. The primary function of mulch in a watering context is the prevention of evaporative loss. When sunlight hits bare earth, the surface temperature skyrockets, pulling moisture out of the top several inches of soil almost instantly. By applying a protective layer, you create a thermal barrier. This blanket keeps the soil significantly cooler and physically blocks the wind from wicking away moisture. In many cases, a well-mulched garden bed can require 50% less water than an unmulched one to achieve the same level of plant health. The beauty of mulching is that you don't need expensive, store-bought products to see results. The best materials are often those that are readily available and organic. Straw. Excellent for vegetable beds, particularly for hilling potatoes or protecting strawberries. It's light, reflects some sunlight, and breaks down into rich organic matter. Wood chips or shredded bark. Ideal for perennial borders or around fruit trees. These provide a heavy, long-lasting barrier. Leaf mold or shredded leaves. A free resource that mimics the forest floor, providing nutrients as it retains moisture. Grass clippings. Perfect for a quick nitrogen boost, provided they are free of herbicides and applied in thin layers to avoid matting. Beyond moisture retention, mulch serves as a protective shield against the splashback effect mentioned in mistake number 2. It acts as a buffer, preventing water droplets from hitting the soil directly and spraying pathogens onto your foliage. Furthermore, it suppresses weed growth, since weeds are essentially moisture thieves that compete with your crops for every drop of water. Keeping them at bay ensures your intended plants get the full benefit of your irrigation efforts. Aim for a depth of 2 to 4 inches, ensuring you leave a small gap around the stems of your plants to prevent rot. Mastering the art of garden irrigation is a journey of observation, patience, and refinement. By addressing the 5 classic mistakes we've explored, timing your watering for the early morning, avoiding the pitfalls of overhead spray, balancing the delicate line between over and underwatering, tailoring your approach to each plant's specific life cycle, and utilizing the protective power of mulch, you are setting your garden up for unparalleled success. Proper watering is more than just a daily chore. It is the fundamental heartbeat of a thriving ecosystem. When you provide moisture with intention and precision, you aren't just preventing wilting. You are building the structural integrity of your plants, boosting their immunity against disease, and ensuring a bountiful harvest for seasons to come. Whether you choose to implement high-tech automation or prefer the rhythmic, meditative peace of hand watering with a wand, your attention to detail will be reflected in every vibrant leaf and heavy fruit. Don't be discouraged if you've made these mistakes in the past. Every expert gardener has a history of lost plants that served as our most important teachers. Take these lessons back to your soil, keep observing, and stay curious. I wish you the best of luck in your garden, and as always, keep on growing.